Hello, I wanted to do a little walkthrough today of this journal that I've just completed. It's a pregnancy journal that I made for a son who was born 2 years ago. So it's taken me a long time to get the creative guts to actually put this thing together. But I think I had to have the right time and the right place and the right mind space to be able to not worry so much about how things turned out and just go with the flow. And I don't think I was there yet at the time. I actually have a creative background, so you'd think it would come naturally, you know, having training that says you should create every day. But it takes a lot of confidence, and that's something I'm definitely working on, that confidence and the belief in myself. Sorry, you can hear the dog chewing her dinner, and I have a bit of a croaky voice, so I'm sorry that maybe the audio is not too great, but that doesn't really matter. So I'll talk you through the outside first. This little queen bee charm was a gift from my sister at the baby shower, at my baby shower. It was attached to a nappy bag that eventually ended up being used until it fell apart, so I've given it a second life on the journal. The bee charm is just from eBay. This little bell here was actually part of a Christmas ornament that we had when I was growing up, and this little tiny yellow ribbon here is actually part of a random act of kindness that a lovely local lady sent me when she heard that I was looking for yellow ephemera and other things for a yellow themed journal. So this tie actually formed part of a table decoration that my mum purchased for my baby shower. And when we were finished with it, I thought I would give it a second life as a bassinet sheet because my son was a very chucky baby. And so in my sleeplessness, I sewed up something that didn't actually fit, and so I kept it thinking I'll use it for something. Maybe I'll keep it on here, maybe I won't. I haven't really decided yet whether or not this is necessary. So there's that. The cover itself is just originally a Kaiser Craft album that I've covered with fabric that I hadn't noticed at the time is actually directional. So we've got upside down ducks and rabbits and cats, but I'm a bit quirky and it's a bit quirky too. Kind of goes with. So inside I lined with the vintage book page, and then we've got some little Monopoly notes that I actually really love. I didn't think I would, but I think it works really well as maybe, I think it may be German or Dutch bus ticket, and it says pages filled with memories, stories and happiness. Bit of Maggie Holmes throughout the whole album, but I chose specifically not to stick with one kit or be limited by one designer's influence in my work, and I think I'll stick with that going forward, just choosing ephemera and things both vintage and modern and all sorts of different kits going forward, because I like the freedom and I like the chance to be creative in my own way. So I was really proud of this first page. I just, sometimes things, you know, turn out the way you imagine them, and this one did. This is a Vicky Bouton paper that spoke to me as soon as I saw it, and it just had to be the front. I've had this yellow doily for many years. I don't know where it's from. It's just been in my stash. And I think this is a Project Life card that I've cut up as well. So we're already starting to show where I've noticed that the paper is a little creased and everything, but that's going to happen, so I'm not going to be too worried about it. So this is a photo of my pregnancy test. I've embroidered little stitches around the outside, and then on the back I was already stuck for ephemera, so I've just done this little sketch of a fetus there at approximately the size Junior would have been when I found out. A little bit bigger, I think, but so that was the 8th of June 2007, so it's a while ago now. I'll leave that out. So there's that. The tab, I've watched for years people using tabs, and I kind of had to have something that I don't know if it's superfluous or not yet. I'll have to see people using the album to see. I just like the look of tabs, basically. This one doesn't have anything written on it, but yeah, I think that's everything on this page. This bee is actually a woodcut that I did when I was doing art therapy, which if you have a need for art therapy, I highly recommend it. If you've got stuff that you need to work through, definitely recommend art therapy. I actually did it as part of a group, and it gave me the confidence to deal with a lot of things, both creatively and outside of that within my personal life. So I definitely highly recommend if that's something you've got in your area. So this is a little flip out here of progress. Oh, I need to slide that across. Progress shots of my bump. I put on weight really quickly, and it's pretty obvious, I think, in the photos. But that's okay. This is 26 weeks, 33 weeks, and 37 weeks. And Jack was born at 38 weeks, so there's 1 week left to go there. This is turmeric dyed lace, which I absolutely loved the process of, and have now started saving my avocado pits in order to further explore dyeing with foodstuffs. I love the idea of having, you know, things that would otherwise be chucked into the compost and turning them into, or giving them a new lease on life. And the actual avocado colour is beautiful. I'm not too sure about this yet. Maybe it's finished, maybe it isn't. This is just a strip of ephemera that I received when I did the call out for yellow ephemera, but I'm wondering if there's something else I can put here. This is just a card from the hospital that has my appointment times on it. I kind of wish I'd kept more of this sort of thing because I like how it looks in the journal. Just covered up some personal details there. I'm sorry. This is just, sorry, the video cut off, so I'm not quite sure exactly where I was. But this is more scans. This is Maggie Holmes' Heritage Collection that I've popped onto a shipping tag with this little tiny trim that was actually stopped by Customs or Australian Border Force, which quite amused me. In here is some more scans, as I said. This one is an actual scan, which I love the impermanence of, but I'm not sure it's great for memory keeping for my son, who may find in years to come that it is just white paper, so I'm not sure if I will make a copy of that or not. This is just an envelope from the baby shower with Sophie the giraffe. So these two cards are 35 weeks and 20 week scans that are just photos of the scans, and these are originals as well. So with this page here, I had a lot of trouble with the layout itself. I ended up redoing it. It was originally on a matte page that was coffee dyed, but it was quite intense, and the photo itself had a lot of vibrant blue, which obviously I've got quite a theme of yellow going through, and so I ended up cutting the blue off. This is I've forgotten the name of the test, but I had to have a lot of ultrasounds and tests just due to my health. Jack was a very, very active baby, and he often had hiccups, so the scans often went, these tests often went for hours because they needed him to sleep, and he wouldn't sleep, he would hiccup and play. So this was one of the many hiccup and play sessions that I took a photo of. There's some more turmeric dyed lace up there. Vintage ephemera, vintage book page. And I think that's part of the heritage collection, but I'm not quite sure. This is the original art that I did for the baby shower invitation. So I did watercolor and pen outlined piece for the invitation. As I said, the bee theme really came about, well, partly because I just love bees. I think they're the most amazing things ever. But the woodcut that I'd done that I showed you earlier was the inspiration for the bees, and the decoration was some of those woodcuts, because I had done so many different prints trying to get the perfect one. That is not one of the best prints, but it's one that I had left over. So this is the actual invitation, just mounted on some black card. This is more turmeric dyed trim, and I'm not sure if it, no, I did mention that I'm going to be doing more dyeing. We'll see how that goes. So this is a mix of my illustrations, stamping. I can't remember where this card comes from. The reject shop had a whole bunch of shipping tags for really cheap, so I'll probably stock up on more of those because I'm sure I'll always use them. And this is just a sticker from AliExpress, which I'm pretty sure has a crane on it, but I was thinking stork at the time, so we went with that. So this is a beautiful gift of a cake that is a beehive that I love and was delicious. So it had to have a big photo because it's beautiful. For a while I was making iced cookies, and I really wanted to make it work. I really wanted to get better at it, and no matter how hard I tried, they never quite turned out how I'd hoped. So here is just some of them. There are many that I have done over the years, but I like that they're documented in here as well, because I think I'll, you know, for Jack's birthdays going forward, I'll do things like this, and hopefully I'll get better at it. But that's those. What have we got going on here? That was a freebie from a lady that I purchased some Etsy ephemera from. I think maybe the stamp was part of that. Some Maggie Holmes there. This is coffee dyed of the same trim as earlier. And that's from the Vicky Bouton paper pack. And there's a little charm there. Handmade, referring to the biscuits. This is just a card from my best friend that she gave to me for the baby shower. None of the other cards feature in the album just because of the sheer bulk of cards. But because this one is so fitting, it got pride of place in the album. So these are little cards that I made up for the baby shower, predictions for baby. And this goes through when people think Jack was going to be born, whether he'd be male or female, his size and weight, and what we would name him. I loved doing these. I had so much fun seeing what everyone had written. No one was spot on, but everyone had cute responses. And these cards for wishes for baby, and there's some really beautiful things that friends and family wished for Jack, and I think he'll treasure these in years to come. So highly recommend doing this. I actually had quite a small baby shower, but I don't think it's about the size of your baby shower. I think it's about the quality of the people you invite, and we had some wonderful people there, so it was really good. So here we have some Project Life cards that I've pulled from my stash of Project Life cards that I own, even though I don't really ever plan on doing Project Life. I'm not sure. I think I got this one from my mum. She gave me a little kit of bits and bobs, and this thought it was perfect. I'm not sure about the gold doily, but I do have a whole bunch. I found an Etsy seller years ago that was selling doilies before they became quite a big trend, and I managed to get some really cool doilies. So this is the binding fabric here and the selvage edge. I loved the selvage as well. So I popped it in here, not realizing that, I'm sorry, it cut me off again, not realizing that I would be using the fabric as the binding, or potentially not, so it might be good that it's in here. I'm sorry for the obviousness that I don't know what I'm doing, don't know how to record videos, don't know how to talk to a camera when there's no one else around, or when there's anyone else around for that matter. I'm pretty socially awkward, pretty awkward in general, so welcome. I have a note here to take more pictures because from the baby shower there are very, very few pictures. This is my friend being the Price is Right hostess. I'll show you the little thing that I designed for that. It was lots of fun. And this is my sister-in-law completely accurately measuring the size of my bump, which was quite funny, but she's a midwife, so she has experience on bump size. We have me wearing one of the outfits that we were gifted. A shot of the table spread, and my first ever shaker pocket and fuse. I also did little fuse lines down the side here because I was just having fun with the fuse tool. So this here is a crocodiled punched bee that my mum had purchased as part of the table decorations, and I saved one just because I figured I would use it somehow, and I kind of like the way the vibrance of the yellow sits there. So this is a cut down A4 folder that everyone received when they came to the shower. A little note for one of the games that we played here. And then again, I've had fun making little game cards that this one's been used for the games that we played that are in there. I'll keep them out. This is another photo that I forgot to include in the flip out. I've popped little diamantes just to accentuate the bump there. This was just getting ready, and giant bump. This is more of the games. Oh, I'll need to stick that back down. Looks like it's adhered. That's okay, we can handle that. So the Price is Right. So I actually purchased things that I was definitely going to be using so that nothing would go, if I hold it that way, nothing would go to waste. Everything got used, except for these breast pads because I didn't end up being able to breastfeed. Oh, it's just started raining. I wonder if you can hear that. And this was filled out by my niece, which I love, and I think I will treasure that she's written in there when she was quite little. This one here is a handbag game. Not very visually exciting, but there's that one. And this is just a gift list as well. So I'll have to maybe stitch that down. Here we have my husband at our antenatal class. Basically, everyone was quite shy. All the men were asked to come up and pretend to have a C-section, and my husband was the only person who wasn't too embarrassed, which is very him. So here he is proud, I'll leave it there, but here he is proudly holding our baby after his C-section, which turned out to be how we would have our baby too. So he had practice and knew what was coming. So this is probably the most journaling I've done, and it was actually something that I had written out, the only thing that I had written out when I was pregnant, and that was that my husband had felt Jack kick for the first time at 27 weeks for him. I think it was about 20 weeks for me, but yeah. So we skip ahead to me being in labour. It was quite a laborious pregnancy. They tried to induce for 3 days. He ended up going into distress, just to cut a very, very long story short. And we were taken here to theatre for emergency cesarean. I look surprisingly chill But I think that's all the drugs. I'm very much a person who is quite happy to have medical support where necessary, and that's just how I roll. It's up to you what you do with your body, your choice. So I like that I kept this too. This is just my hospital band. Jack's band will go into his birth to 6 month album, and I'll do birth to 6 months and then 6 to 12 months theoretically. The albums may end up bigger or smaller, but I think that's going to be the approximate breakup. The albums are slightly wider than this one, so it should work. This is probably my favourite page, and it's kind of a mixed media vibe. 3 attempted inductions, 18 hours active labour, 1 emergency cesarean, and then this little guy was born. So in here I have a note. We were actually living with my father-in-law at the time, and I won't open it because he's since passed away, and so it's a bit of a sad point at the moment, but I'm glad that I kept it. It was a note that my husband had written to his dad just to let him know that baby hadn't been born yet and everything was okay. Underneath this vellum piece here is a pretty bloody gory photo. It's kind of clear to see, but it's more vibrant if I flip the vellum just of my son's very first photo. So I've done a shaker pocket, here, and I've on vellum stamped out my son's details. And here he is, all squishy and new and grubby. On this photo I've popped some flowers that I made out of book page, some distress ink, and then just some craft paper, because I had run out of florals, but I knew that I wanted florals, so I decided to make my own. Not sure about the definition. They almost need maybe a pen line around them to make them pop. I'm not quite sure yet. These diamantes were part of the random act of kindness. There's been a few things throughout that I haven't mentioned that were part of that, and a few things from my mum, and there's also some little details there. So there's our little guy being checked over, Dad cutting the cord, and this little hello piece was from my mum. A vintage piece, this is from the Heritage Collection. The yellow is the random act of kindness. Again, this paper that I love from Vicky Bouton, which theoretically I could also do myself, but you know, this is nice. This is a paint swatch of Jack's first bedroom colour, which coincidentally was yellow, so it works well in the album. Our first family shot. I'm actually hemorrhaging here, so I'm doing quite well, hemorrhaging and happily smiling away. Cuddles with Dad. And then I kind of wanted to finish up this page with something. So just a card that says hello, a vintage card. These stickers I've had for maybe 15 or 20 years. So it was kind of cool that they ended up in here. And I've done a little cluster here of various things. That's a Project Life card that I've fussy cut, some vintage ephemera, and I can't remember. I think that is from a Project Life kit as well. But basically this whole vibe of having kind of a hybrid mod with vintage, with found ephemera, with purchased, is how I want to roll, I think, going forward. I've really loved making this album and, you know, getting, you know, trying different, you know, mixed media and pockets and sort of blending everything together. It's very much me to have that kind of thing. So I love that I've learnt a lot doing this album, and I'm excited and nervous at the same time to be going forward and doing the next the next album, and also it'll be color themed, which I'm kind of disappointed about because inadvertently, without realizing what I was doing, I had quite gendered the colors. So it's lots of blues and greens, and as you can see, I like working within a color palette. So while there'll be splashes of color, I probably won't be adding too much of anything else. But it's a point that I'm now aware of, and so I think documenting childhood for me is about colour of all types. So we'll see what the next years bring. I may be back to document more of my journey. If you do want to see more, or if you do have any questions, let me know. Mostly this was just so that I could finish telling little stories that I didn't tell in here. You know, now they have been told, they are out there. The journal's complete. So thank you very much. If you want to find me on socials, on Facebook and Instagram, I'm Bloom Documented. Also on Etsy, I'm bloomingsupplyco, but there's nothing much there to see right now. Maybe by the time this video is actually uploaded, there will be. So have a look and see. Have a great day.